Today I want to talk about Mike Woods transferring to Oklahoma and why Arkansas fans should stop freaking out and how Oklahoma just got better. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kidfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Arkansas wide receiver Mike Woods, who is transferring to Oklahoma, where he will have 2 years of eligibility left. I want to talk about why Arkansas fans should really chill out. It's okay. And why Oklahoma fans should be excited about the day-to-day, but not necessarily Saturday. And this is being recorded before the spring game, and depending on how that goes, I might have some things to tell you about Oklahoma spring game a little bit later on. So I also wanted to tell you the launch of the #1 ranked show has been awesome. I have been overwhelmed by your response to it. If you are interested in hearing from Mac Brown, Rondale Moore, Trey Sermon, those episodes are up on the channel and on your favorite podcast app. While you're at your favorite podcast app, please consider leaving a 5-star review because it's a 5-star show. And one of the cool things about working at Fox and doing my job is that I still get to make these sorts of videos, right? The ones that I know folks have asked me for, and there probably isn't that large an audience for, but that's what this channel is about. It's about getting narrow, getting deep, and you can see that from the monologues. And I enjoy the monologues. I like it. It's detail-oriented, and I get to write, and I get to deliver what I have written, and I will continue to do the, showing up here, yelling about whatever, because I understand that is a part of my personality that people like. But, hey, look, range. And, I started writing. I love writing. I got to write a feature about Mortal Kombat, and the movie's not great. Matter of fact, probably sucks. But the art that my man Garrett Prentice came up with is awesome. You should go to foxsports.com just to check out his graphics. I compared Trevor Lawrence to Lord Raiden, he came through. I compared Nick Saban to Shao Kahn, and he came through. And you should go see what the rest of those are looking like. Also, we got more episodes in the can, and I'm excited for you to get to them on Monday. Going to talk with Micah Parsons and LeVar Arrington in what is the most fun interview I have ever performed at Fox Sports. I'm very excited for you to hear that. Also going to talk with Pat Surtain just a day before the NFL draft, and Kyle Trask on that Friday following the first round of the NFL draft. And there is at least one more surprise that you'll find out about next week. But let's talk about Arkansas. Okay, so I got a text from my buddy Ty Richardson, who hosts radio at ESPN Arkansas and has been a tremendous champion of mine, and I enjoy just chatting with him about all things Arkansas football. And he sent me a text as it was rumored that Mike Woods was not only going to go into the portal, but that he would end up at Oklahoma, that he was going to be very, very sad if Woods decided to transfer, and he did, to which I'm sorry, Ty, because I understand what that means for many people, right? It is the second leading pass catcher for Arkansas last year, who was a sophomore and coming into its own. He caught 33 balls as a true freshman for just over 400 yards. And then in 2020, he caught 32 for 619 yards, right? Like 5 touchdowns. That's a gaudy average for Mike Woods. But he goes into the portal and he comes out at Oklahoma. And I want to talk about Oklahoma here in a bit, but I want to remind Arkansas fans, Blake Kern is coming back. 6th-year senior for an unprecedented 5th year of eligibility. I did this monologue on the Trey Sermon episode about the rise of the super senior this year. There are over 1,000 super seniors, 1,046 across all the conferences this year, which means that there are 1,000 more football players on scholarship than we're used to having, and they're all super skilled players, right? Because they forego getting a real job or going into the NFL draft so they can come back and hone their craft one more time, have one more go at this thing, because the NCAA did the right thing in allowing everybody a mulligan and a free year of eligibility if they so wanted to take it, even if you played in the 2020 season, and Blake Kern did. 20 catches for 201 yards. And you also got Hudson Henry, who had 16 catches for 92 yards, and is the brother of one, Hunter Henry, who is pretty good. And you take a look at how Arkansas has been about putting tight ends into the NFL. Feel good about both of those guys being there. You also still got Traylon Smith at tailback, who averaged 5.3 yards per carry, went over just over 700, sharing the rock with Raheem Boyd, who I hope gets drafted. We'll see how that goes. You got TJ Hammonds coming back, who 14 carries for 101 yards, 7.2 yards per carry. That's good. And then, let's not forget about Treylon Burks, 51 catches, 820 yards. Your top pass catcher. For the Arkansas offense, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later, it's about quarterback, right? If it's KJ Jefferson, if it's Malik Hornsby, whatever. Just figure out the quarterback, because I really love Kendall Browse's veer and shoot. When it's run well, it's awesome. And then you add dudes that I'm very excited about in that 21 class, including, among others, Ketron Jackson, 4-star recruit, 61 catches for 889 yards as a senior in high school. And my guy, AJ Green, who's from right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, went to Union. He's going to show up, play a little tailback, had 117 carries for over 900 yards as a senior. He's got 4.39 speed, and you can see that on the track. He's a 10-second guy in the 100 meters. He's going to have a lot of fun at Arkansas. Bryce Stevens coming out of OKC Marshall. He's going to be good. Raheem Sanders is another dude who's showing up at Arkansas. He's going to be good. And you get all of those talented defenders back. Jalen Catalon, Bumper Pool, Grant Morgan, right? You have dudes. And you're still hanging on to Barry Odom. And what I think is going to be an Arkansas team that hangs its hat on its defense is going to wait for this Arkansas offense to mature and see what they can do. But, man, Arkansas, again, with the tough schedule, dog. Y'all coming up against, I would normally not say Rice going, other than stick your phone in it if something happens. But I got to say this, man. Rice knocked off a previously undefeated Marshall team last year that was humming right along. And then Marshall slid, lost its last 3 games of the season after starting 7-0. And then they get blanked by Rice 20-0. Both Arkansas and Texas play Rice, and then Arkansas and Texas play each other, which is another way of me saying that's a tough game for Arkansas, but it's at home, and you should have a lot of fun with it. It's one of my top games of the non-conference slate. I'm very excited about that. And then Georgia Southern is on Arkansas' schedule. They went 8-5 last year, and they barely lost to a Louisiana team that was really good last year. That team barely lost to Coastal, and that team would have played in the Sun Belt Championship if it wasn't canceled due to COVID reasons. And I was excited about that. But this Louisiana team is really good. They returned 98% of the guys they had last year. Only Elijah Mitchell of their studs has gone on to the NFL. They're going to be good, and they're going to push everybody. My God. So to know that Georgia Southern was right there neck and neck with Louisiana, don't take any of your non-conference games unseriously. Okay, Arkansas, just don't do it. But you got tools. And I believe in Sam Pittman and his ability to recruit. I love his staff I mentioned Kendall Browse and Barry Odom, but also Hot Sauce Davis on the offensive line. They added Jermile Finley from Tulsa, who coached defensive line over there, managed to create really outstanding players like Jackson Player, who I can't wait to see, recruited one of my favorite kiddos from the area, Owen Ostrowski, to Tulsa, who's going to be really good. But for Oklahoma, I'm looking at Mike Woods going, yo, man, show up, and I hope that you about it, because that wide receiver room is stacked, both at inside and outside. Dennis Simmons getting the outside, Cale Gundy getting the inside. But look, Mario Williams is a true freshman. He shows up as a 5-star recruit according to some, and the number 1 rated slot receiver according to Sports Illustrated. But that's for good reason, right? He had 160 catches for over 3,000 yards, 45 touchdowns in his career at Plant City. Helped that baseball team win a state championship for the first time in decades. He's going to play a little baseball at Oklahoma as well. And I expect him to compete with the likes of guys like Drake Stoops and others for a time. And this is also, we have to mention it, right? This is coming at a time when Trajan Bridges and Seth McGowan have been formally suspended for conduct that you can go read about elsewhere. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. But I think that the timing of this is not unserendipitous, right? God, I hate that for them. But you also got Cody Jackson, who's showing up, who was the first commit to the 21 class for Oklahoma, who's caught at least 50 balls not every year, as a sophomore, junior, and senior coming out of Richmond. And he's averaged a gaudy 19.2 yards per catch for his high school career, which is just stupid. And that's before we get to, is Billy Bowman going to be allowed to play some offense in 2021 because they're starting him out playing defense? That's before Jalil Farouk, who has a kinship with Caleb Williams, shows up. And that's before I end up talking to you about Theo Weiss, Marvin Mims, Jaden Hazelwood, right? We can keep going down the list here. Like, the wide receiver room is stacked. The only other one that I think is as good as Oklahoma's is up at Ohio State. And those two teams wouldn't meet until perhaps a playoff. And I would love it if Ohio State and Oklahoma played in a playoff game. You got the 16 game where Ohio State stumped a mud hole and walked dry, Oklahoma in Norman. You got the 17 game where Baker planted the flag in the shoe to get a W. Give me Ohio State, Oklahoma in a college football playoff semifinal. I'm not turning down nothing but my collar. I swear to you. But for Arkansas, getting out of your non-conference schedule 3-0, I think would be a tremendous deal. And because you play in the SEC West, which is stacked with Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Auburn, and then A&M, it's just tough, right? I mean, in any other conference or any other division, I'd say Arkansas has a shot to finish second or even first. Like, if you put Arkansas in the SEC East, I think they could go at Florida and win that game this year. We'll see. It would be a better game than it was last year because I think they're both on par with each other. But the chasm between everybody else and Georgia in the SEC East is just, the size of the Grand Canyon. I think day-to-day, Oklahoma's practices are going to be ridiculous with these wide receivers just platooning in to go after the defensive backs. And that's what you want if you're Alex Grinch. Certainly what you want if you're Cale Gundy and Dennis Simmons and, of course, Lincoln Riley as a play caller. And if Mike Woods can break into this, kudos to him, man. I mean, Obi Obialo's no longer listed as part of the team, right? Theo Howard chose to leave. And then we're getting into spaces where I could talk about Austin Stogner and how you're going to deploy him as well. So, there's some room, but there ain't a lot of room. And Mike Woods must be that talented for Oklahoma to want him to go get him. And it's not as if Oklahoma hasn't just been living in the portal basically since the Lincoln Riley era began, if you're looking at quarterbacks, but especially for this 21 team and this 21 cycle, because you've got Wanye Morris transferring from Tennessee. You got Key Lawrence transferring from Tennessee. You got Eric Gray transferring from Tennessee. You got Robert Congle transferring from Arizona. The team in 21 at Oklahoma is a national championship caliber team. And I don't blame Mike Woods for wanting to be a part of that. And I certainly don't blame him when you look at how Oklahoma has put wide receivers into the NFL, right? It is the one position in which I think Oklahoma is the best in the country day to day, year to year. I mean, and I'd put them up there with Alabama. And as far as their production of wide receivers, though Holman Wiggins, who, by the way, had a stop at Tulsa, has been doing an outstanding job. And you look at guys here coming out of just the last 2-3 years at Alabama, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and this year, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. We can keep going down the list. You can understand how Alabama could hold on to that one spot, but you could also see who else, right? Oklahoma's there as 1B. All right. I hope this is what you were looking for. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. That's it for me. Deuces.